misuse your powers for evil.
Evil? Your evil is mine.
To Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm Charles Skaggs, struggling to deal with Skype as they keep changing things this time. Skype shakes fist. It's up. It's working. But this time I had to log in through Microsoft account for no particular reason whatsoever. So thanks, Skype. But anyway, you don't care about that stuff. So welcome to Next Stop Everywhere. I'm Charles Skaggs, as I said, and of course, with me in the TARDIS, my partner in time, everybody's favorite partner in time, Jesse Jackson.
Hello, Charles. Lovely to be here talking to you. I may add our discussion pre-recording of Black Lightning as a credit, as a post-credit extra, because while we were waiting on everything to go on, I'll probably send that to you so you can put it on the Fandom Zone. Yeah,
there we go. There's our special bonus review. Jesse and I just tacked on a bonus review. That's great. Because we were just talking Black Lightning and how awesome we love that show.
Yeah, and
the first episode at least.
Yeah, and before we get into this episode discussion, I do need to share with you that I interviewed earlier today a wonderful Bruce Springsteen fan from Leeds, UK, and we spent a few minutes talking Doctor Who, because I said I never understood when I watched the classic Who, why are they not just like Tom Baker burning up in the coat and scarf every day? And she's like, yeah, it's cold here almost, all year round in England. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
See, having been to England twice now, I can definitely attest that it can be a little brisk at times,
yes.
especially depending on the year or month of the year that you go to. But sometimes they're very grateful for those heavy layers, I'm sure.
Absolutely. So I'm excited. We are, I guess, halfway through.
After this episode, we'll be halfway through our little Chris Chibnall kind of mini review era here. Next Stop Everywhere, as we kind of set the table for what's coming up with Series 11 later this fall, as we understand things. But so today we're going to talk about our second story from the Chris Chibnall era, or stories that aired during Russell T Davies and Stephen Moffat's eras. So our second story that we're going to talk about is The Hungry Earth / Cold Blood, because it's a two-parter, and for some reason they can't just go part 1, part 2 these days. So they each have an individual episode title. And this is obviously written by Chibnall, directed by Ashley Way, who directed some Torchwood episodes, some good ones. Captain Jack Harkness, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, a particular favorite of mine, and Exit Wounds. And then she also directed some Sarah Jane adventures, Death of the Doctor, which was a great story, obviously featuring the Doctor, and The Empty Planet and Sky.
Sky. Are we planning, as we produce on the air, as we are often doing?
Yes,
we do. Are we thinking about watching the Torchwood episodes that Chibnall had written?
No, that's an idea. I don't know if we should, because there were a number of those.
Okay.
So I don't know if we want to go through all of them, but we can maybe hit some highlights if you want. Because I don't want to, because this is Doctor Who as opposed to Torchwood, but it would be kind of nice. We haven't really talked Torchwood much.
We have not.
On Next Stop Everywhere. So I'm thinking if everybody's cool with that, we could do a dose of that after. How about we consider that after we get through our Doctor Who Chibnall episodes?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously we focus on the Doctor.
Yeah.
But we have done. We've gone throughout. We've done some.
Yeah, we've done Big Finish and some.
So it might be interesting.
Yeah, we haven't really got into some major Torchwood discussions. So if everybody's cool with that, we'll do that.
Okay.
After as we kind of produce on the fly.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So if you got a preferred Chibnall Torchwood episode, drop us a line. Let us know.
Yeah.
We'll give you the email details later, but drop us a line. And let us know if there's a specific one you want us to talk about.
Perfect.
All right. Sounds good. So we do have some notable cast members in the story. Primarily Nev McIntosh, who plays the twin Silurian sisters Alea and Restak in the story. She obviously known throughout modern Doctor Who fans as Madame Vastra, who first made her first appearance in the, I believe, 2011 story, A Good Man Goes to War. And then she's appeared in other stories as Vastra, The Snowman, The Crimson Horror, The Name of the Doctor, and Deep Breath. And so very cool to get, I'm pretty sure that obviously her roles here were kind of what inspired Stephen Moffat to create Madame Vastra, because she was so good in the role.
She is so good in this, and I love Madame Vastra. I still would love to have a spin-off movie of
the Paternoster gang.
Yeah, I just think that would. I don't think we'll get it, but it would just be so much fun to see that.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, you would think that that would be great, if nothing else, for a mini episode.
Yeah, exactly.
We've had a couple of those with them, but I would like to see some more. So. I always enjoy seeing Vastra, Jenny, and Strax. So
yes,
So and I kind of hope that we get to see the new 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker, encountering them at some point as well. That would be nice.
Absolutely.
But if not, I understand. But because Chibnall's going to go his own way, so
and rightly so.
And rightly so. He's certainly entitled and probably wants to keep things fresh. But maybe down the road, who knows? I wouldn't say no. Let's put it that way. We also had Meera Syal as Naseem Chaudhry. She's turned up in a couple of notable places. She played Dr. Patel in the Doctor Strange movie recently.
Nice.
And she was Judge Sharma, who was a major figure on Broadchurch Season 2.
Okay.
Recently. So if you were looking for her, might have spotted her somewhere else, that's probably where. We had Robert Pugh as Tony Mack, Naseem's love interest. He played Craster. Yes, that shady Craster guy with all his little slave girls, and in Game of Thrones.
Ah, okay.
When the Night's Watch would go just north of the Wall to kind of that little camp. Yeah, that's where that guy had all his daughters and then probably granddaughters, and it got really icky. That guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was also in the Torchwood episode Adrift. He played a character called Jonah Bevan.
Okay.
So he's got some Torchwood creds. Nia Roberts, who played Ambrose Northover, the very annoying Ambrose, in my opinion, in the story. She played Bragnar in a Big Finish audio, which was a Tom Baker story. The Wrath of the Iceni. And we had Richard Hope as Malachi, who turned up again as Malachi, the scientist, in The Wedding of River Song, even though his character is killed off in this story. And he also played Bladel in the episode Dinosaurs on the Spaceship.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. So we've got which was another Chibnall story, which we'll be covering very shortly.
Nice.
Here next up. So there's another Chibnall connection there. All right. So I don't have cutesy episode or segment titles so let's just start right off with the Doctor, the 11th Doctor, Matt Smith. This is very early in his first series, Series 5 from 2010. So I want to say I think this is episodes 8 and 9 during his first season. So he's kind of started to get his feet wet a little bit in his role of the Doctor. So I want to get your thoughts on Matt Smith as the Doctor in this, and his concerns about the Silurians. I want to talk about that and his adamant position to try to broker peace between the humans and the Silurians.
So every time we rewatch a modern era episode and certain classic episode errors, I fall in love with the Doctor all over again. It isn't like I forget how wonderful Matt Smith is, but seeing this, you just go, gosh, he was good.
Yeah, it's nice to be reminded, isn't it?
Yeah, and it isn't just him. Like when we watched Tenet, I went, gosh, he was good. And we watched, Christopher Eccleston, gosh, he was good. And I know we're going to say the same thing about Capaldi. So that was my first instinct. And we'll talk a little bit more, I know, about the companions. But yes, I loved that the Doctor was trying to find compromises and how to take care of both sides. And as we record this, it's January 21st, and Friday night, Linda and I were eating our Friday night dinner in front of the TV, and we're watching the Senate. And
yes.
And you're like, really? Can we not work on a compromise? And this was very appropriate. This trying to find this, and him trying to find.
Yeah, for those who don't know, outside the States, we're going through our lovely government shutdown here in the States right now because two sides can't get along. They can't broker out a deal because they're too busy locked into their positions, and they're not willing to negotiate.
Yeah, so
we're kind of at an impasse here, and as a result, our government has officially shut down for the moment.
Right. And, I loved how he was on both sides, just trying to make this happen, trying to explain that, from their perception, humans are the interlopers. And I also I will say this, and I shared this on the last episode. I remembered not being very impressed with this episode, either one, and I've never gone back and re-seen them. I still don't know if it justified a two-parter. I felt like there was a lot of unnecessary kind of waste.
You thought it was a little padded?
Yes.
See, I thought this one kind of flowed kind of well, but it's okay. But that's cool that you thought that.
Yeah, and so, but I was, I liked the Doctor. I liked the idea that he's trying to make peace. He's very clever. He has some nice lines. And he also had just the right amount of judgy mindset among some of the characters, right? He goes to people and like, you are not the best of humanity today. You had a chance to do this and you chose not to. And it was just really, I was very happy with him. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. And you bring up a good point because that was a great scene with him and Ambrose, where Ambrose, the Doctor finds out that Ambrose, in her stupidity, I have no better word for this, kills Alea, one of the Restax twin sister. And because she's freaking out over her family, now granted she is emotional obviously at this point, and I get that, but she's not thinking clearly.
No, she's not.
Obviously. I don't think that's an unfair statement. I hope not, anyway. And as a result, she just kills this, the Silurian warrior, rather easily, in my opinion. And, she's just like, okay, she's angry because her family's being captured, but she's not thinking that, oh, hey, maybe this might exacerbate the situation.
Yeah, and to be fair,
and the doctor calls her out on it.
Yeah, this isn't. If she had been, we all appreciate the fact that as a parent, you would go to any extreme to save your child.
Right.
But this is just revenge. This is not. It isn't like she is attacking her child and she attacks back, kills her to try to save her child. There is no thought at all that if I kill this character, that I'm going to get my, if Ambrose kills Aaliyah, that I'll get my son back. No,
right.
We don't know that at all.
Right. Yeah, and the Doctor has been through this before. In previous Silurian stories, particularly their first one, which I will talk about, that he knows that the Silurians and the humans have always had this very contentious relationship, and he was kind of burned the first time. So I think that's been part of it, that he's kind of remembering all this, his frustration with humanity. And I think this is also coming into play here, which I think is kind of interesting. And I'm kind of glad that Chibnall kind of incorporated some of those elements. He didn't just ignore it because it was a new era. He actually incorporated that and kind of kept, without dwelling on the continuity, he used it.
Yes. So
I like that a lot too. And Matt Smith, I thought that, again, it's as early in his run, but he's starting to kind of figure out his Doctor a bit. In my opinion, he doesn't really quite click there until series 6, but maybe toward the end of series 5, and the Pandora opens and the Big Bang. But not very late until his run. But here, you kind of start seeing like, oh yeah, there's the Doctor that there's the 11th Doctor that I really like.
Yes.
And go ahead.
No, and I just it is I like how he's interacting with Amy and Rory. I do like the moral high ground he's taking.
Right.
So this is the Doctor. I think, and I'm a little more kind. I think he is already not as great as he's going to be, but he is certainly, already a very likable Doctor.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And obviously his run turned out rather well for the most part. Some ups, some downs, but hey, that's pretty common during Doctor runs. You have your highs, your lows. But overall, I think it turned out rather well. And I was very satisfied. Okay, so anything else about this topic before we move on?
Nope. It was great to see him in his bow tie and his
the original tweed jacket.
Yes, it was just really cool to see him.
Yeah, with the arm patches and or the elbow patches, I should say. Okay, so let's move on to our second topic, where I want to talk about Amy and Rory. Now, Amy and Rory here, they essentially this is Rory's second trip aboard the TARDIS after the Vampires of Venice.
Right, I think so.
Or no, maybe second or third, maybe.
Right.
And so it's still kind of early on in his traveling through time. He's mostly there as Amy's sidekick, with Amy being the Doctor's sidekick, essentially. And Rory, he starts to grasp the dangers, I think, of traveling with the Doctor, because Amy gets sucked into the earth in this story, and there's that conflict that he has with the Doctor. So I want to kind of get your thoughts on the conflict of Rory being protective of Amy and kind of being let down by the Doctor because the Doctor put her in this danger. And I want to get your thoughts on, obviously, the big cliffhanger at the end where we have Rory being killed, won't be his last time, and ends up getting kind of absorbed into the crack in time that makes its reappearance. So I want to get your thoughts on those.
I love Amy and Rory as companions. I love the married couple. Of course, they aren't married at this time, but
no.
I love the interaction. Rory is smarter and braver and more competent than he gives off. So I'm not bothered by his kind of bumfoolery or his kind of
being a comic relief.
Yeah,
character.
Because it's mostly because that's kind of the role this character is playing himself. He's it goes back to Mr. Pond, and Roy goes, that isn't how it works, and him and the Doctor go, yeah, it is,
Right.
I really like Rory, and I think now a little bit of problem with this is Rory was also the Kenny from South Park character.
Exactly. We obviously get a taste of that here.
Yeah, and I don't like that part of it. And I love Amy's strength, and I love her kind of brass attitude. Everyone keeps laughing at the way she's dressed, and I was dressed for Rio, and how much she belittles and makes fun of Rory, but it truly is with love in her heart. And you see how devastated she is at the end, and how she is truly kind of the almost, in pardon my sexism, but the guy in the relationship, quote unquote. Quit. One of the lines that I loved is, Amy, I thought I lost you. What? Because I got sucked into the earth? You're so clingy.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, because that was a great moment. It's just that her kind of casual you're just overreacting. Just stop being so emotional or whatever. It's no big deal.
And so I just think they are really strong companions. Right away, the three of them have this early into it, they have a nice dynamic between them. And
see, without putting it in sexist terms, I would say that Amy is the alpha,
yes,
and Rory's the beta.
Yes,
in the relationship.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes.
Okay.
Well said.
So thank you. I agree. That moment that you just brought up with Amy getting on Rory's case about being clingy, I thought that was great. Amy, yeah, Amy proves to be very resourceful in this story. I mean, there's that part where she pickpockets the ability to kind of this control to release herself from these bonds from Malachi, I believe it was, and that frees her and Ambrose's husband. I can't remember his name at the moment, but Mo. And so it frees her, and she's not breaking, Amy, one of her strengths is that she's not like a fragile flower, obviously.
Yes.
She doesn't just sit there and bawl and whimper at her predicament. She's defiant at her predicaments. She stands up for herself. And that's one of the things that I really like about the character. She's a force of nature, Amy is. And I've always kind of thought so. And with Rory, I think it's here, interestingly, it seems like at the end when Rory's dying, it seems like this is where it kind of clicks for Amy about how deeply she feels for Rory, I think.
Yes.
At least that's the first real impression, because before, remember, we got, a lot of Amy flirting with the doctor, kind of like tuning out Rory a bit. And it's here that, even though they're engaged, as we find out, that it just doesn't seem like we don't get that sense from her of how deeply she loves him. But here at the end, I think we do, and that kind of carries on from this point.
Yeah, I do too, and I think it's really well done. The doctor is almost like this. Almost, how people will make the joke that I have a list. I have 5 celebrities that I get a pass for.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I think this is kind of her, partly because she's
the sanctioned approval list.
Yeah, so I think partly because she loves harassing him.
Yeah.
And I also think that it was just really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice.
Yeah, it is. And, obviously Rory disappears into the Kraken time, which makes its reappearance.
Yes.
So we won't go into that because obviously we'll talk about that in other stories, like we talked about it in the 11th hour.
Yeah.
But this kind of reintroduces that subplot that carries throughout Series 5. And at this point, as far as we know, Rory's gone. We have no idea that he's coming back. So were you kind of shocked that Rory had, as quote unquote, died, air quotes?
Yeah,
Or were you not buying it? Did you think that somehow he might come back?
It's hard for me to remember seeing this the first time. So I know I wasn't shocked. I know this didn't, like, oh my goodness, I can't believe they killed a companion.
Right.
But I tend to, and I think it's the cynicism of reading too many comic books and watching too many movies.
Right.
Like, I just knew Danny Pink was coming back. Spoilers.
Right.
I just knew. I had no doubt in my mind this wasn't going to, death is not permanent.
He's not going to go out this way.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And but Rory, it's tough for you to remember if you were concerned or not.
How about you? Do you remember?
I mean, obviously this was, it's hard to believe, but yeah, this is almost 8 years ago already, which is crazy, that this episode aired. I think it's just, I think I was just more stunned by what was going on, that it didn't really register. I mean, sure, Rory was gone and we had no idea that he was coming back, but again, I've read so many comic books and watched so many TV shows that it's like, okay, even if you see a body, and even then, it's maybe not the end. There's always that possibility. And I think the fact that with Amy not remembering because of having him erased from her timeline because of the crack of time, that it didn't seem like it was going to stick for me. Like it seemed like it was just going to be a temporary thing. Oh, eventually Amy's going to remember, and then maybe things will work out okay. Because there was that bit with the engagement ring.
Right.
And as long as that engagement ring was still around, that kind of made me think that, okay, this is going to be the connection that somehow leads to Rory's return at some point.
Yeah, and I did love the scene where he's like, remember him.
Right.
And especially when you think about, because we now, in hindsight, know how the season ends, where she gives that great speech at the wedding, I brought the others back, I can bring you, and she does the take on something borrowed, something, old, new, borrowed,
Raggedy
blue.
Man, you are late for my wedding.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Yeah, that's good. It is a great Amy Pond speech.
Yeah, and so the idea that, he's going, remember him, and then what were we talking about, is very...
Yeah, because there's that buffering in the TARDIS that kind of takes her away from that moment. Like the Doctor's trying to keep her focused.
Yeah.
At a crucial moment, things go awry and she forgets him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the Doctor remembers him.
He does.
And that's an interesting plot, that the Doctor, remembers Rory because he's a Time Lord for whatever timey-wimey reasons.
Yeah.
And is able to remember him, but Amy doesn't. And it's something he's kind of keeping from her.
Yeah, and what's, when we go to truly one of my favorite episodes, Vincent and the Doctor.
Right. That's the story that follows this.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they talk about that. You have sadness.
Right.
And it's really well done.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Let's move on to our third topic. This is obviously going to be the Silurians, because they make their reappearance. This is their first story in the new Doctor Who era. They haven't been around very often. They've only appeared in a couple stories in the classic era. They appeared in the Silurians, which was John Pertwee's second story as the third Doctor back in 1970. And then they didn't return until the Warriors of the Deep in the Peter Davison era. So they're kind of like a very minor Doctor Who monster, but it was kind of cool to see them back and pretty radically different from their classic interpretations. So I want to get your thoughts on what you thought of the Silurians, and then the other, like the various humans that are negotiating with them, and your thoughts on like Ambrose and Tony and Nazarene, and what you thought of all that.
Yeah, so I liked I liked them as a quote unquote monster,
Adversary, whatever you want to call it.
She's there. It is definitely what's really good about a Doctor, adversary, monster, however you want to call it, is this one has depth. And that's always the best when you have a little extra depth. If you want just crazy, evil, you have the Daleks and you have the Cybermen. And so I like when you're having something a little more
substantive.
Yes. Are they wrong necessarily, right?
Yeah. Well, these are very morally ambiguous villains.
Yes.
In this case. And they're even not really villains. They're just basically trying to protect their colony underground.
Right.
And all these humans with their drilling kind of screwing that up. So they're not entirely evil. There's this conflict.
Yeah. And so it was well done.
Right. And you had Alea and Restek, the warriors, essentially trying to take charge of the situation over the more peaceful administrators.
And I really liked the peaceful administrators coming in and going, what are you doing?
Right.
I loved that we'll figure this out. And it was a little bit, and this is a post, but a little bit of the Babylon 5,
right?
With the Warrior case and the kind of I like the way that they have an agenda, and this guy.
You mean like with the Narn and the the Centauri Republic and all that.
Yeah, and why I'm drawing a blank on the lens race.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they had the worker caste, the warrior caste.
The Minbari.
Yeah, the Minbari, where there was this, the warriors were all about, looking.
Oh
for,
yeah, right.
So that's very similar to this, right? They just want to fight because that's what they're bred to do, and that's their purpose. And so I also like kind of the sadness of the doctor telling the kind of a head administrator, I really thought we could get this working.
Right.
And him going, well, that's...
We're not there yet.
Yeah,
we have
it's not time yet.
Yeah. Yeah, there was that kind of resignation between both of them.
Yeah.
That this situation wasn't going to work itself out. And they're basically like, okay, let's just put the pause button on. We'll put ourselves into suspended animation. And we'll try this again, 1,000 years? 1,000 years, that sounds good? Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, and that was kind of interesting. Don't you think that,
yeah,
we're just going to put ourselves to sleep. And, I don't know if that's necessarily fair. I mean, it was a good solution, but I don't know if it's the best solution we should do, right?
Well, it's just like, okay, none of the people here are going to it's not going to work out. So we've got to start scratch with a whole, let's just put this on ice. Now, really, where the Silurians are coming from, though, if they're on suspended animation, they're essentially going to come out the exact same way, right? I would think now with humans, they're going to go through 1,000 years of evolutionary development. But the Silurians are basically going to be the same, so I'm not sure how that's going to work itself out. But apparently it does.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What did you now, Ambrose? What were your thoughts on Ambrose in the situation? I know I kind of ranted about her a little bit, but her reactions to Aleia killing, that confrontation with Aleia, and that ultimately when Rastak finds out that Ambrose has killed her sister Aleia.
Yeah, so Ambrose is I hate to say this, but a very typical, close-minded, dislike anything different than me person.
Right.
And she's using the excuse.
Like a xenophobe, basically.
Like the general that was, we just watched the episode, I'm drawing a blank on, the William Hartnell's last episode. In
the 10th Planet.
Yeah, the 10th Planet, where that general is just obsessed with his son and doesn't worry about anything else.
Right.
Ambrose has a little bit of that there.
That's a good comparison. I like that.
Yeah, and so
it ultimately makes the situation worse because of that.
Yeah, and of course you need that to make a good. You need the conflict,
right?
And I don't think she was a paper villain. Like, you could actually say the general was a little bit too one-dimensional.
Right.
Ambrose was truly concerned about her child, and she, I think, illogically trying to work through this, and I don't think it's defensible, but it was understandable, and it made for a good character.
Right.
I especially liked Tony and
Nazreen.
Yeah, I liked their relationship. I kind of liked how he chose to stay with her. And
I kind of like that we had an older couple romance in this, which we don't get very often on Doctor Who.
I totally agree with you, Charles. It's always nice to see, maybe because now I'm getting older, but it was really sweet. And I also like that, going back a little bit, Rory is a nurse, and him kind of yelling at Tony, why didn't you tell me? I could have helped.
Right.
Rory, another reason I love Rory is Rory's always out there first to help other people. He is a healer and wants to do everything he can for that. And I think that's a beautiful addition to the family of companions in the TARDIS. When
it's nice to have somebody that could actually take care of people if they're wounded.
Yes.
Or injured.
Right.
Yeah.
And I agree with you too, kind of going back to something you said earlier. I was very sad. Neve McIntosh was supposed to come to a convention a couple of years ago, and she ended up having to cancel because I really wanted to meet her. She's just amazing in this, and she is on her role. So I think the give and take of the humans being afraid, and all of a sudden you have these lizard type people living under them, and some of the humans being able to go past it, others not, made for a nice mix. And I will tell you, Charles, the more I talk about this, the higher my rating is going up.
Oh, you're going to bump it up a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, good. Yes, you liked it more than you thought. So did you like it more this time than you watched it when watching it the first time?
100%.
Now that you have more perspective.
Yeah, and I think also, sometimes, we weren't doing the podcast back then.
Yeah.
So, right now, because of the podcast, I watch almost every new episode and even some of the classic episodes once or twice. I at least watch a new episode twice before we talk about it.
Right.
And, back then it was just one episode. I usually done, one and done, unless it was something really special. And so I think that may have been the problem is, it was late at night. I watched it. I went, eh. So looking back, and as we talk about it, this is there's a lot of nice things going in this.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely, I think there's more pluses than minuses here.
Yes.
All right. Anything else about this episode before we move on?
Nope, I can't think of anything.
All right. So let's dive right in.
Okay.
Best lines of the episode. There are a lot of good lines in this.
Yes.
From Chibnall, so credit to him there. What are some of your favorites?
So my favorite line I'm gonna leave for you because I think I don't want to steal your thunder.
Okay. There's no thunder to steal. You could take it.
No.
This is a partnership. We do this.
But I will. I love the whole. What did I break? Sonic and entering. Totally different. With maybe going, you did breaking and entering. What?
Yeah.
So I love that. I love that comment.
And the doctor's just like, yeah, what? No big deal. Well, it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. I like this exchange. The doctor and Elliot. I liked Matt's doctor. We always talk about this. At least I try to. Matt's doctor is really good with kid characters.
Yes, he is.
And here with Elliot. This is one of those early indications of this. So he's talking with Elliot, and Elliot asks him, have you met monsters before? And the doctor replies, yeah. Are you scared of them? No, they're scared of me.
That is such a classic Doctor Who comment.
Right.
It is, yes, that was on my list too. I love that comment. Nazarene goes.
It kind of like reassures Elliot, like, hey, I'm not scared by monsters, and they're the ones that have to worry about me, so you're safe with me.
Yeah. I love when Nazarene says, this is like every day to you. And the doctor goes, not every day, every other day.
That was good. I like there was this one exchange between Tony Mack and the doctor where Tony's like, you're not making any sense, man. And the doctor replies, excuse me, I make perfect sense. You're just not keeping up.
That was the line I was talking about. I love that line.
Yeah.
I think that is
it's a very doctor.
It is a very doctor line, and that is one of the reasons why Linda gets uncomfortable watching Matt Smith episodes because she says he sounds like her brain. That, there's always these things going on, and it does seem like he's 2 or 3 steps ahead of you in the conversation.
Well, he is, generally.
Yeah, everything does. I've already talked about it, but I think it's worth repeating. Roy, Amy, I thought I lost you. What? Because I got sucked into the earth? You're so clingy.
And then my last quote I have is the Doctor and Amy, where the Doctor's explaining fixed points, and he goes, "There are fixed points through time where things must always stay the way they are. This is not one of them. This is an opportunity, a temporal tipping point. Whatever happens today will change future events, create its own timeline, its own reality. The future pivots around you, here, now. So do good for humanity and for Earth." And Amy replies, "Right. No pressure there then."
Yeah, that was my last line too. I absolutely adore that. I think it is, a little bit of an echo of Capaldi's final speech.
Right.
Right? Like, so do good.
Yeah.
Really, really well done.
Yeah, that's one thing about Doctor Who is because the Doctor is the same character, so if he's gonna steal from himself. So.
Absolutely. So Charles, what did you give this episode?
Well, like you, I think my ratings kind of got up as we've talked about this. I gave it 8.5 burnt chunks of TARDIS sign.
Ooh, nice.
So yeah, this is actually a lot better. I think it's kind of an underrated story.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So I went up to not quite as high as you, but a little bit better. I did 8 out of 10 big mining things.
Okay.
I love a big mining thing. Rio doesn't have a big mining thing.
I'm dressed for Rio.
Yes. Really well done. Good stuff. So Charles, as always, you probably have a reverse the polarity. What do you got?
I do. This one's kind of obvious given the characters involved. So we're going to reverse the polarity back to 1970 with the Silurians, or as the title card said, Doctor Who and the Silurians, because there was a kind of a production error, and they put the words Doctor Who and the in the title instead of just the Silurians. But really, so just call it the Silurians. It's the second serial of season 7 in 1970, written by Malcolm Hulke. And this is a John Pertwee era story. This is Pertwee's second story. So this is the one that comes right after Spearhead from Space, which you loved.
Yes.
So if you're curious about what happens next, this is it. So we have an experimental nuclear power research center experiencing mysterious power drains and mental breakdowns among the staff. The Doctor and his companion Liz Shaw meet Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart at the plant to investigate. But one of the workers is found dead with giant claw marks on his body, and his companion has been traumatized. And so basically we find out through the course of this story that there are logs with the nuclear reactor's operation being tampered with that lead down to these caves, and down in the caves below they encounter, of course, the Silurians. And we basically find out we see the Silurians being revived from hibernation, which apparently we got that in the story that we just talked about, with the Hungry Earth. And there's these energy drains that basically drawing power or drawing energy from the reactor to revive the Silurians. So this kind of sets up this big conflict because with UNIT being a governmental agency, where it gets back to the government, there's this conflict going on, and the Doctor is basically scrambling here. He's trying to the Silurians kind of unleash a virus, and the Doctor works on a cure, and that cure gets out. The the Silurians try to force the Doctor to use the reactor to provide power as a weapon to destroy the Van Allen radiation belt to make sure Earth's environment is hostile to humankind so that they can come up from underground. So obviously that's a big deal that the Doctor has to sort out. And the Doctor overloads the reactor. In the process, though, he says that the area is going to be irradiated for at least 25 years, so the Silurians go back into hibernation, presumably until the danger is passed, and the race goes back to sleep. Now, here's a big moral issue: is that this one Silurian who's kind of resisting against this attacks the Doctor in a rage, but is shot by the Brigadier. So the Doctor is like, okay, let's try to set up a peaceful compromise between humans and the Silurians. Meanwhile, though, the Brigadier has other orders from above and blows up the Silurian base, killing the Silurians. The Doctor is horrified at this and at this act of genocide, but Liz suggests that the Brigadier was just acting on orders of his superiors. So, very, very kind of a dark ending to this story, but it's a really good one. And it kind of sets the tone with the Third Doctor and his issues with the military.
Yeah.
And his kind of like long-term grudge against military authority that probably went all the way back from Gallifrey, but from this point on, we kind of get a real good taste of this on Doctor Who.
Very nice.
So good story, worth checking out. It's a long one. It's a 7-parter in black and white, but 22, 23 episodes each. So takes about at least 2.5 hours to get through, but it's worth it in my opinion.
Right. Very
all
nice.
Right. So check that out, the Silurians.
Cool.
Now we do have some feedback this week.
Yay! Feedback.
Love feedback. So we'll get through that really quickly. Let me pull up my Gmail. All right. First feedback we have is the return of Holly Mack. Welcome back, Holly, who's talking about The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. She says, hey, guys, I forgot how good this 2-parter was and how it sets up Season 5's 2-parter finale. The Silurians coming back after a long time. Forgot how protective they can get. Glad that Madame Vastra is a more mellow Silurian. No kidding, right?
Yeah.
The ending of Cold Blood with Rory sacrificing himself to save the Doctor, and the crack that opened up from the digging man talk about feels. Seeing these two again also makes me want to watch Vincent and the Doctor again, which ties into this Cold Blood a bit, with Vincent sensing that Amy is sad about something, even though she's blocked it.
I have the exact same feeling.
Yeah, you brought that up earlier.
Yeah, I just, and of course I'm always ready to watch that one again.
She adds, I'm liking this Chibnall retrospective. Thank you, Holly.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I hope everybody else is too. Are you also going to be covering the short episodes called Pond Life? And she sends a link, which, of course, I've got them on Blu-ray, but thanks for the link. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So she says, I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. So thanks, Holly. Yeah, Pod Life. That's a good question, because that was a series of mini episodes, kind of like 5 micro episodes.
Right.
That kind of tie in together. That was also written by Chris Chibnall. So I'm thinking, we could cover that really quickly, along with another Chibnall episode.
I agree. That'd be good.
So let's do that. All right. And then we also have some feedback from Paul Beck, who writes in. Paul from Australia. Hi, Charles and Jesse. Got to say right from the start that I have not seen these episodes in a while, and I enjoyed them better than I did before. Hey, so did we. I think these episodes show Matt Smith hitting his stride as the Doctor, especially in scenes such as Amy being sucked into the ground and the Doctor telling Ambrose no weapons as she loads the van full of them.
Yeah.
That was good. And then you notice that one of those weapons was a cricket bat, which I kind of wondered if it was a 5th Doctor nod. And
you also, I knew this because of, I had seen this, but Matt, the 11th Doctor asked for celery. which
Yes.
I thought was nice.
Yeah, maybe that was another in Fifth Doctor. I forgot about that thing.
Yeah.
Paul adds, my one negative observation about these two episodes is that on viewing, I noticed how much this Doctor uses his sonic screwdriver. He really uses it a lot, with everything from opening things to disarming the Silurians.
That is a good point. And I did think when he was coming out of the TARDIS and, had it leading, I thought of the War Doctor. It's a tool, not a weapon.
Yeah. These are scientific instruments.
Yes.
Stop waving them around like water pistols. Paul adds, as for the return of the modern area of the Homo reptilia, I still miss the original look of the Silurians. The new versions, while the makeup is incredible, still look too human. I missed the third eye. Yeah, they had the classic ones had a third eye above their forehead, kind of like Davros. But maybe that's why they kind of went different with that, so to make them kind of distinguish them from Davros. But they did explain that there were different types of Silurians in the story. So
absolutely.
So it's not like they don't count anymore. They're just not this tribe of Silurians, I guess.
Absolutely.
Once again, the Doctor's trying to broker a peace settlement between them and the apes, which doesn't quite work out. Yeah, they kept referring to the humans as apes, and he kept waiting for Eccleston's Doctor to show up because that was his tagline. He always dismissed humans as apes. We have a story in which the Doctor says that this is a temporal tipping point, not a fixed point in time. It still confuses me how Time Lords know this. Do they just sense it? What makes it something a fixed point that can't be changed? ? It seems very arbitrary. It is arbitrary. It just depends on the story they want to tell. That's my take on it anyway. I don't know about you, Jesse, but that's my take.
Yeah, I think that's it too.
Yeah. On a different note, I think Chris does a great job of fleshing out the supporting characters. Right from the start, you know who these people are and to a certain point care about what happens to them, what lengths they will go to just to protect one's family. And as for the emotional end of Cold Blood, it still gets you on the repeated viewings, so well acted by all the leads as Rory is wiped from Amy's memory and the mystery of the crack deepens. Great ending, made me want to rush and put in the next episode. Hope you're both good. Sending my kindest regards as always, Paul. P.S. This episode has one of my favorite laugh-out lines of Doctor dialogue with his super squeaky bum time. Just love. P.S.S. Have you guys watched Shada yet? I'm curious what you think. Now, Shada, this was the Tom Baker story that wasn't they had a production strike and weren't able to finish during Tom Baker's run. They've recently reissued this elsewhere in the world, not here in the United States yet, with brand new animation and some actual live recordings from Tom Baker to finish the production. But it's not out here in the States, so we kind of probably have to wait to talk about it. But I do have our previous DVD release of Shada that came out, so we could talk about that, but probably should wait till the new version comes out.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, because the DVD version had kind of linking narration. It was basically Tom Baker standing in the studio kind of narrating the missing parts as they filled it in. But this is going to be actually really like finished production with animation and whatnot.
Okay.
So a little better, hopefully. So why don't you Paul, you could always email us and let us know what you think in the meantime.
Absolutely.
PSSS. Are we watching Dinosaurs on a Spaceship next? Well, gee, Paul, don't you set this up once again, as you always do so well? Yes, we're going to talk about Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. And thanks to what Holly suggested, why don't we talk about Pond Life first, because that kind of continuity-wise takes place before Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. And so we'll talk about Pond Life and Dinosaurs on a Spaceship next time on Next Stop Everywhere. How's that sound?
I think that sounds like a great plan.
So as we continue our Chris Chibnall retrospective.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
It's a lot of episodes that you don't really think about.
Right.
Because they're not the biggest episodes.
Yeah, so I think that's great. I'm very happy about this.
And if you want to be, go ahead.
I was just going to set you up. If you want to be like Holly and Paul, how can you
Yes.
reach out to us?
Obviously, you can email us, as Holly and Paul did, nextstopeverywheresmg, don't forget the SMG, @gmail.com. Or you can reach us on Facebook at Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Or you can drop us a line on Twitter at nextstopsmg. We'd love to hear from you, so please like us and follow us there. Always great to hear from everybody. And while you're at it, why don't you go to iTunes, rate us if you would, if you find us worthy, and let us know what you think of us. Hopefully you enjoy us. Been a while since we had some reviews, so that would always be great, and it helps people find the show. So if you want to help growing Next Stop Everywhere, and so that you can tell everybody what a cool Doctor Who community you're part of, that would definitely help. And Jesse, where can they reach you on the interwebs?
Yes, I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW. By the way, you should go to our Facebook page. We only have 167 people liking us on our Facebook page. I know we can get higher than that.
We'd at least like to get to 200. Wouldn't that
Absolutely.
be cool to get to 200? Now, we're not dismissive of those 167.
Oh,
you guys
love
are
that. Yes.
You guys are awesome. Don't think that we're not.
Right.
But obviously 200 is going to be better, right?
Absolutely.
It's the mighty 200. We want to get to the mighty 200.
Yes.
As David Tennant might say.
Right. So yes, I can be reached at Jesse Jackson DFW. I am on Facebook at Jesse Jackson in Louisville, Texas. You can hear me on Set Listing Bruce, the Bruce Springsteen podcast. And I just did an episode on Tour de Cons talking about the Texas Frightmare weekend that's coming up in May here at Dallas. And yes. Charles, how about you?
Well, obviously, I'm going to be on the Twitter machine at Charles Skaggs or the Instagram at Charles Skaggs. Google Plus for all you crazy kids in the Google Plus. Charles Skaggs. Shout out to Karen. Facebook, of course, at Charles Skaggs in Ohio. And my blog of Geeky Things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the things we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere, including Doctor Who, including Torchwood, including the Sarah Jane Adventures, and all kinds of comic book, sci-fi news, and news of a certain upcoming podcast that Jesse and I will be doing as soon as our editor, Rob, finally posts the first episode. So no pressure there, Rob. We're waiting. Right. We already got 2 episodes in the can as we sit here tapping our nails going, okay, we would like the first episode of Titan Talk now, please. Yes. So keep a lookout for Titan Talk, the Titans podcast, coming soon, hopefully, to Southgate Media Group.
Absolutely.
All right. And my other 2 podcasts that I do for Southgate Media, the Phantom Zone podcast, which I do with Karen Lindsay, and Ghostwood, the Twin Peaks podcast that I do with Zan Sprouse, wife of comic book artist Chris Sprouse, where we talk about all things, obviously, Twin Peaks. So please check those out. I would take it as a personal favor, and thank you very much for doing so. And I hope you enjoy it. Indeed. So, all right. So anything else before we do we have a quote to sign off with?
We do have a quote.
All right. What's our quote?
So there are 2 sides today, Barbara. Those who rule by fear and treachery, and those who fight for reason and justice. And anyone who betrays those principles is worse than the devil in hell. And that is Jules Riemann from The Reign of Terror.
Very excellent. That was a classic William Hartnell story. So you went way back for that one.
I did, but I thought it was appropriate with what's going on today.
Very, very, very fitting. Exactly. Yes. Well done. All right. So come on back, everybody, for Pond Life and Dinosaurs in a Spaceship next time on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Two, one.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again. Oh, doesn't look like it's recording. Shoot. Oh, there it is. No, hold on. There it is. They've changed the setting on this too. Sorry.
Yeah.
Let me try this one more time. I just noticed like it used to be on the right side where it said recording on. Now it's on the left side. It's throwing me off. Okay.
Yeah, mine still is on the right side, but what cracks me up is it used to automatically come on, and now it isn't. So you're like, okay, I got, so I actually have this up, panicking, like, okay, is it still recording? Is it still recording?
Yeah.
So,
all right, sorry about this. Let's try this one more time.
All right,
okay.
Here we go. Three. Okay, you're going to count us down?
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. 3, 2, 1.